The Mystics of Islam by R.A. Nicholson, Chapter 2, Illumination and Ecstasy. God, who is described in Al-Quran as the light of the heavens and the earth, cannot be seen by the bodily eye. He is visible only to the inward sight of the heart. In the next chapter, we shall return to this spiritual origin, but I am not going to enter into the intricacies of Sufi psychology any further than is necessary. The vision of the heart, Riyat al-Qalb, is defined as the heart's beholding by the light of certainty that which is hidden in the unseen world. This is what Ali meant when he was asked, "Do you see God?" He replied, "How should we worship one whom we do not see?" The light of intuitive certainty, yaqeen, by which the heart sees God, is a beam of God's own light cast therein by himself, else no vision of him were possible. 'Tis the sun's self that lets the sun be seen, according to a mystical interpretation of the famous passage in Al-Quran where the light of Allah is compared to a candle burning in a lantern of transparent glass, which is placed in a niche in the wall. The niche is the true believer's heart. Therefore his speech is light, and his works are light, and he moves in light. He who discourses of eternity, says Bayezid, must have within him the lamp of eternity. The lamp which gleams in the heart of the illumined mystic endows him with a supernatural power of discernment. Firasat, although the Sufis, like other Muslimin, acknowledge Muhammad to be the last of the prophets, exemplar messenger prophets, as from a different point of view, he is Logos, our first of created beings. Well, some of the Sufis overstate the position of Muhammad like that, but they really claim to possess a minor form of inspiration. When Nuri was questioned concerning the origin of the mystical firasat, he answered by quoting the Quranic verse in which God says that he breathed his spirit into Adam. But the more orthodox Sufis, who strenuously combat the doctrine that the human spirit is uncreated and eternal, affirm that firasat is the result of knowledge and insight, metaphorically called light or inspiration, which God creates and bestows upon his favorites. The tradition, beware of the discernment of the true believer, for he sees by the light of Allah, is exemplified in such anecdotes as these. Abu Abdullah al-Razi said, Ibn al-Anbari presented me with a woolen frock, and seeing on the head of Shibli a bonnet that would just match it, I conceived the wish that they were both mine. When Shibli rose to depart, he looked at me as he was in the habit of doing when he desired me to follow him. So I followed him into his house. And when we had gone in, he bade me put off the frock and took it from me and folded it and threw his bonnet on the top. Then he called for a fire and burnt both frock and bonnet. Sari al-Saqati frequently urged Junaid to speak in public, but Junaid was unwilling to consent, for he doubted whether he was worthy of such an honor. One Friday night he dreamt that the prophet appeared and commanded him to speak to the people. He awoke and went to Sari's house before daybreak and knocked at the door. Sari opened the door and said, "You would not believe me until the prophet came and told you." Sahal ibn Abdullah was sitting in the congregational masjid when a pigeon overcame by the intense heat dropped on the floor. Sahal exclaimed, "Please God, Shah al-Kermani has just died." They wrote it down, and it was found to be true. When the heart is purged of sin and evil thoughts, the light of certainty strikes upon it and makes it a shining mirror, so that the devil cannot approach it without being observed. Hence the saying of some Gnostic, "If I disobey my heart, I disobey God." It was a man thus illuminated to whom the prophet said, "Consult thy heart, and thou wilt hear the secret ordinance of God proclaimed by the heart's inward knowledge, which is real faith and divinity." something much better than the learning of divines. I need not anticipate here the question which will be discussed in the following chapter, how far the claims of an infallible conscience are reconcilable with external religion and morality. The prophet, too, prayed that God would put a light into his ear and into his eye, and after mentioning the different members of his body, he concluded, and make the whole of me one light. The reader should be reminded that most, if not all, mystical traditions ascribed to Muhammad were forged and fathered upon him by the Sufis, who represented themselves as the true interpreters of this esoteric teaching. I don't know if you could say most or anything like that, but there was certainly stuff that didn't get put down in the initial centuries, but from illumination of gradually increasing splendor, the mystic rises to contemplation of the divine attributes, and ultimately, when his consciousness is wholly melted away, he becomes transubstantiated, taja wara, in the radiance of the divine essence. This is the station of well-doing, ihsan, for God is with the well-doers. Al-Quran 29:69. And we have